Dear friends, this is episode number 25 of the Limitation Act. In the last episode, we have dealt with section 13. While considering section 13, I also said that it is necessary to look into section 3(2) subclause 2 of the Limitation Act and rule 15 capital A of order 33 of the Code of Civil Procedure. Decisions are very rare in section 13. Last time I put a question to the viewers. I could not find an answer. The word bona fide is there in section 13, but it is not there in rule 15A of order 33. So what is the legal effect? There is no decision on that point. I could not find anything. Anyhow, the decision which is available are two Kerala decisions. They are 1990 volume 2 KLT 392. It is reported in AER also. AER 1991 Kerala 76. Sridevi versus Appu. Sridevi versus Appu. What was held in that decision is that in paragraph 9, I will read a short paragraph. It is the application or appeal as originally filed as an indigent person, along with an application for leave, that is intended to be converted into a regular suit or appeal on payment of court fee. When the application is granted, the suit or appeal will be numbered, registered and proceeded as provided in Order 33 Rule 8 or Order 44 Rule 1, as the case may be. Rejection of an application to sue or appeal as an indigent person does not ipso facto carry with it the rejection of the suit or memorandum of appeal filed along with it. The suit or appeal is a separate document which remains for disposal after rejection of the application, and the court has power under section 149 of the CPC to give further time for payment of court fee and treat the court fee as paid in the first instance. But such a power is not available when a fresh suit is filed out of time. After dismissal of the application, the suit or appeal has to be revived on payment of the court fee, if necessary, by getting extension of time. If that is not done and a fresh suit is filed, it means the original suit or appeal is abandoned and it is having an automatic death. When a fresh suit is filed on payment of court fee after expiry of the period of limitation, the time spent in prosecution of an earlier application for leave to sue or appeal as an indigent person, which was dismissed, cannot be excluded. The exclusion is available only in the same proceeding which gets converted into a suit or appeal on payment of court fee. Court cannot enlarge the period of limitation prescribed under the Limitation Act and permit a time-barred suit to be admitted. What is permitted is only exclusion of time by treating the same suit or appeal as having the force and effect as the one filed at the first instance, as if the court fee was paid then. Section 13 is permissible only for converting the same proceeding into a regular suit or appeal on payment of court fee, and it is not available when a fresh suit independent of the original proceeding is filed. The fresh suit which is filed as an independent proceeding later on payment of court fee cannot be treated under section 13 as having the force and effect as if court fee was paid at an earlier date. The suit is liable to be dismissed. So what is provided in section 13? Section 3(2) subclause 2 and Rule 15A of Order 33 is that when an application for leave to sue or appeal as an indigent person is rejected, still that is not an end of the matter. Payment of court fee can be made. Court will grant time. If the court fee is paid within that time, it shall be treated that it is filed on the date on which the application is filed. Application for leave to sue or appeal as a pauper is made. That is by a fiction, it relates back. But that facility is not available when after rejection of the application for leave to sue as appeal or as a leave to sue or appeal as a pauper is rejected once, then you go file another suit which is time barred. If it is not time barred, then it is all right. If it is time barred, you cannot get the period excluded. Which period? The period occupied by your prosecuting an application earlier. It is only to convert the same thing. This is the only decision which I could find on that point. Another Kerala decision on that point is 2013 Kerala High Court cases 3702 Chandrika Babu versus Sudhakaran and others. Period of prosecution of the application to sue is excluded from the period of limitation, and by fiction of law, the suit is permitted to be treated as having the same force and effect as if the court fee had been paid in the first instance when leave to sue was filed along with the suit. These are the two decisions which I thought that I would place before you. Next is very important, utmost important. Therefore, I will cite several decisions for your consideration, various angles, some repetition, some various angles, various points. And it is a growing field in the sense that the rigid view which was being taken earlier has been given a go by now, and somewhat it has become slowly becoming liberal. What is section 14? Let us see carefully, very carefully, word by word. It is important. I will complete reading section 14, explain then, and then section 14(3) for the purpose of properly understanding section 14(3). It is necessary to have the provisions of the Code of Civil Procedure, Order 23 also. So I will take Order 23 along with this. When I take that, because that to understand section 14(3 little bit difficult, particularly for law students, it may be slightly difficult. And how to distinguish 14(1) and 14(2) is also important. Now let us see 14(1), heading exclusion of time of proceeding bona fide in court without jurisdiction. What is that? A proceeding was there. It was being prosecuted bona fide. That was in a court which could not entertain it. That period can be excluded for the purpose of section 14. We will see section 14. 1. In computing the period of limitation for any suit, the time during which the plaintiff has been prosecuting with due diligence another civil proceeding, whether in the court of the first instance or of appeal or revision, against the defendant shall be excluded, where the proceeding relates to the same matter in issue and is prosecuted in good faith in a court which from defect of jurisdiction or other cause of a like nature is unable to entertain it. A big long sentence. It's a section. What are the ingredients? We will segregate, separate, dissect the section. Understand it. In computing the period of limitation for any suit, I said that under the Limitation Act there are 3 categories of cases: suits, appeals and applications. Here 14(1) deals with suits, not appeals or applications. That you may note. So it is suit. The time during which the plaintiff has been prosecuting with due diligence another civil proceeding. So the plaintiff was prosecuting another civil proceeding, whether in a court of the first instance or of appeal or revision. Against whom? Against the defendant. That period shall be excluded, in which case, where the proceeding relates to the same matter in issue and is prosecuted in good faith. So, there must be a previous proceeding which was being prosecuted with due diligence. That is a civil proceeding that was pending in a court of first instance or of appeal or a revision, and that was against the same defendant and same matter in issue. And then what happened to the previous proceeding, civil proceeding? It does not say suit, civil proceeding. To start with, for the purpose of computing the period of limitation for filing a suit, a particular period is to be excluded. What period? Where the plaintiff was prosecuting with due diligence another civil proceeding. It may be a suit, it may be anything. Either in the court of the first instance or of an appeal or in revision. Against whom? Against the defendant. And there, proceeding relates to the same matter in issue and it was being prosecuted in good faith. Due diligence, we have already said, good faith. Prosecuted in good faith. In what court? Why it was could not be entertained? If that court entertains it, there is an end of the matter. You need not file a suit. That party need not file a suit. Plaintiff need not file a suit. That will be an end of the matter. The plaintiff wanted to have his redressal of his grievance against the defendant. He opted a proceeding, a civil proceeding. Does not say civil court. Civil proceeding, and that was pending. That may be pending as a suit or as an appeal or as a revision, and that court could not entertain it. For what reason? is prosecuted in good faith, which from defect of jurisdiction or other cause of a like nature is unable to entertain it. So we are speaking of the plaintiff prosecuting another proceeding. Plaintiff has a grievance, a civil right to be agitated against the defendant. He chose a proceeding, civil proceeding, that was pending in a court or court of appeal or revision, another civil proceeding in a court, maybe the same court or another court, against the same defendant, same matter in issue. It was being prosecuted in good faith and prosecuted with due diligence. But that court could not entertain it. Why? Because there was a defect of jurisdiction or other cause of a like nature. So that proceeding was pending for quite a long period, sometimes a few days, sometimes a few months. If that period is not excluded, that person's suit, plaintiff's suit, will be barred. He filed his suit before the proper court, but by that time, the time is over. He was prosecuting it in another court or the same court, another civil proceeding. That was not the proper proceeding. The court could not entertain, most probably another court, another proceeding, in another forum. That court could not entertain it because of defect of jurisdiction or other cause of a like nature, plus other ingredients. Same defendant, same matter in issue, good faith with due diligence. So that period, that proceeding, some period was covered, period was spent. If that period is not excluded, the plaintiff's suit, present suit, will be barred. So if all these conditions are satisfied, that period during which he was prosecuting with due diligence and with all bona fides, another civil proceeding, same matter in issue, between the same party, namely the defendant, from defect of jurisdiction or other cause of a like nature, the court could not entertain it. And you file a suit before the civil court. You seek time. Please exclude that period where I was prosecuting with due diligence against the same defendant, same matter in issue, another civil proceeding. So that period may be excluded. I was prosecuting it with due diligence, there was bona fides. It is only because of that court was not having, there was a defect of jurisdiction or other cause of a like nature, could not entertain that. That is the reason why it ended in say rejection or dismissal or whatever it is. So please exclude. If that period is excluded, your suit is within time. This is subsection 1. Subsection 2, almost same wording except a few words. Let us see. In computing the period of limitation for any application, what was the previous one? A suit. In computing a period of the period of limitation for the purpose of a suit, here in computing the period of limitation for any application, the time during which the applicant has been prosecuting with due diligence another civil proceeding, all same, whether in a court of the first instance or appeal or revision, against the same party, not defendant. In the earlier section, in the earlier subsection, against the defendant, Who is claiming the benefit? Only the plaintiff. The previous proceeding was against whom? Against the defendant. Here, against the same party. That means any party can claim the benefit of subsection 2. And same relief, not same matter in issue, same relief shall be excluded where such proceeding is prosecuted in good faith in a court which from defect of jurisdiction or other cause of a like nature is unable to entertain it. So all the other things same as in 14.1. The only difference here is, here computation of the period of limitation is for the purpose of an application, not a suit. The other difference is the other proceeding which the court could not entertain it was against the same party, need not necessarily be the defendant. Same party. It need not be the same matter in issue. It is not sufficient if it is not the same matter in issue. It is necessary that the previous proceeding was for the same relief. That is a difference. 14.2, 14.1, 14.2, all the rest of the wording same. Same. Except suit, here it is application. Instead of defendant, it is same party. Instead of same matter in issue, it is same relief. So you may underline those things. So that is the difference between 14.1 and 14.2. One is for a suit, the other is for an application. Here also same thing, that period is to be excluded. So this is a method by which you are aware that a suit cannot be, there cannot be a condonation of delay. It is not possible. What is that period? That is contained in explanation. 3 we will deal with separately, 3 is a little bit difficult. Explanation. For the purpose of this section, in excluding the time during which the former civil proceeding was pending, the day on which that proceeding was instituted and the day on which it ended shall both be counted for exclusion. So the period during which you were prosecuting the previous proceeding is to be excluded. What is that period? The date of initiation of that proceeding, the date on which it ended. Both must be counted for the purpose of exclusion. Then, for the purpose of this section, a plaintiff or an applicant resisting an appeal shall be deemed to be prosecuting a proceeding. What is prosecuting a proceeding? A plaintiff or an applicant resisting an appeal shall be deemed to be prosecuting a proceeding. So it need not necessarily be the appellant. In the first case, that is subsection 1, it must be plaintiff who is claiming the benefit. Here it can be any party, need not be the plaintiff. 14.2. Explanation says the plaintiff or an applicant, plaintiff under 14.1 or an applicant under 14.2, resisting an appeal shall be deemed to be prosecuting a proceeding. See, take an instance. A suit is filed by A against B in a court and that suit was decreed. An appeal was filed by the defendant. Who is the respondent in that appeal? The plaintiff. The appellate court says that court had no jurisdiction. Then where is the plaintiff? Plaintiff is a respondent. He was resisting the appeal. And then the appellate court holds that the trial court had no jurisdiction to entertain the suit and the suit was accordingly dismissed. The period from the starting of the suit till the end of the appeal shall be excluded for the purpose of filing a fresh suit in the proper form. So it is not always plaintiff appellant like that. A plaintiff who is resisting an appeal, plaintiff or applicant resisting an appeal shall be deemed to be prosecuting a proceeding. Misjoinder of parties or causes of action. Misjoinder of parties or of causes of action shall be deemed to be cause of a like nature with the defect of jurisdiction. Defect of jurisdiction or other cause of a like nature is the expression used in 14.1 and 14.2. What is that? Cause of a like nature. It includes misjoinder of parties or causes of action shall be deemed to be cause of action, cause of a like nature with the defect of jurisdiction. Defect of jurisdiction or other cause of a like nature. What is other cause of a like nature? Supreme Court has interpreted it as saying something adjustum generis. So that includes misjoinder of parties or misjoinder of cause of action. We will see in the next episode. Thank you.